We're back here on our program, our special program we are doing on education here today, and our guests on the program, the Minister of Education, and we are also here with the Deputy Permanent Secretary in Education, Mr. August19th2018, Mr. Julian V. Anderson, the Deputy Director of Technology and Innovation, and we are joined by a principal of L.W. Young Junior High School, the principal there, Mr. Stephen McPhee, who we've had on other programs, and he is also a leader in the Management Union for Teachers. Mr. McPhee, good to have you here today.
Pleasure to be here, sir.
You sat and listened to some of the comments made by the minister and the two executives from the Ministry of Education. And one of the things that we talked about had to do with incentives for teachers and remuneration for teachers. You remain in the profession because you love it, right?
Love it.
Yes. And you're not going in any other profession, right? But the point is, what can be done to incentivize teachers?
Yeah, but I mean, outside of leaders, like I say, honestly, and I've said this before, making educators who they lead to know that they are valued, that they respect them, and they matter. Outside of that, if we're talking about the tangible part of it, I'm saying there is much concern. Like I said, Maslow says in his research, if educators, if an employee have to worry about certain basic needs, medical insurance, water, light, you can't get them to perform at their highest. And so again, one of the things I've also said to you, Mr. Jones, is sometimes I think we need to look a bit away from the dollar in the pocket of the man and look at ways how we can give him more than $1 by way of incentives. Mm-hmm. And we've discussed some of those things. We have teachers who are being told they don't even qualify for a home. We have teachers who go to banks to, most basic loans, and they don't qualify. You know, and so I'm saying at the end of the day, while we may not be able at this very point to talk about doubling the amount of money that an individual educator takes home, there can be some other benefits. Duty-free exemptions on vehicles, lower interest rate on mortgages, those sort of things. I would have heard the minister in upper management speak about, if I'm an educator, I have the opportunity for my child to attend a local university at either reduced rate or free. Those are things that cause educators not being greedy or not caring more about wealth than they care about, but their needs. And so I think that really needs to be the approach. And I can tell you, as a representative of members in the management union, we've been saying to them, stop asking us to go for the extra $1, because every time we get it, you actually have less to work with. In 2006, I was a part of the teachers union when we negotiated the salary increase at the time under August19th point here. And teachers got, I think, a raise of about $200 or so added to the base salary per month. We then did a sort of internal survey about a year later and asked teachers at that very same time, what investment, what it is now as a result of that $200 extra that you have. You know what they had? They had more bills. That's right. They increased the capacity of the air condition, so the electrical bill went up. Very few of them could have shown you where they would have done by way of some annuity or some new savings plan. And so I can tell you, we educators, myself, Mr. Turnquest a little wasted me, we bad at managing money. And so we have said to our members, listen, we're going for some things that we know you need. But when we give you the money, you keep promising you're going to do, but you don't do. And so we're going to look at some incentives as we would have discussed earlier.
Interesting. Minister, the government talked about scholarships, and you have a scholarship program, don't you?
Oh, yes.
I am told that there are certain people who are not eligible to get scholarships this year, that you have decreased the number of scholarships?
No, sir. We have
No?
not decreased, no, sir.
Okay.
No, we have not decreased the number of scholarships.
You have not decreased the number of scholarships?
No, sir. $17 million is allocated every year for scholarships, Mr. Jones, $2.1 million for bursary. Let me show you the difference. Bursary are those students who are going to the University of the Bahamas. You've got a certain portion of the 546 that receives a full scholarship. That is $2,500 per semester. That's $5,000 a year. The university's fees are basically that. Or a partial scholarship, and that depends on what you did in the BGCSE results. So move the bursary aside, you're talking about $17+ million that go to scholarships. This year, Mr. Jones, we received, by way of applications, 4,377 applications for scholarships. 4,377. We're only able to get 520 scholarships. Do the math.
So you're not increasing the scholarships. So
We're not decreasing. Somebody said
you're not decreasing, but you're not increasing.
Yeah, we're not able to increase at this time.
Yes.
Okay? So that means that out of that 4,377, some 3,800 are not going to receive a scholarship. Mr. Jones, that breaks our heart. We would love to be able to do more for our people. You're only talking about approximately 1 in 8, 1 in 9 persons who make an application, who qualify, and all of these 4,300 and something qualify now, you know. Only 1 in 8 are going to receive a scholarship. That is very, very disappointing. And of course, people up in arms, oh, I think I should have a scholarship. Right. Well, everybody deserves a scholarship. We're just simply not able to afford one at this time. And it's very difficult. Let me tell you another thing, too. The scholarship program system that we have now, Mr. Jones, will be reformed. We can't continue the way it is. At this late date, even though this is the way it is every single year, at this late date, we still do not have the completed cycle of scholarship awardees. We still don't have it. We have people who are in the system for renewals who have yet to be called or yet to be notified that their renewals have been approved. Or we have people who are applying for the first time who have yet to be called, yet to be notified. Why? Have a limited staff. We're waiting for the BGCSE results. Those results came out last week, about a week ago. Then you go through the process of assessing who shall get a scholarship and who shall not get a scholarship. Nonsense. That has to be reformed, and it will be reformed. The task force is being appointed at the end of September. They have to report by the end of November. Sorry, at the end of October. They got a month. Come up with a new system, a brand new system, and that new system will involve Mr. Anderson and technology. 100% digitized. 100%. No more paper, nothing. Okay? You're going to make your application online. If that application is not complete, you're not going to be able to upload it. If that is complete, you will know instantly whether you qualify or you don't qualify. So you can make your plans otherwise. Because this is unfair to parents, and it is unfair to the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. There are schools right now that have long started. The university started from the beginning of August. Right. And students are waiting. You've got students who have gone to the U.S. Embassy to make application for a student visa. Yeah. Some of them have applied for a scholarship. The embassy says, well, did you get it? No, we are still waiting. Well, come back when you know whether you've gotten it or not, because they're depending on that to determine if they qualify or not. Well, the school has already started, and we are still not yet telling them that they have gotten it or they haven't gotten it, because the results just came out. So we are dependent on the results to determine who should get a scholarship and who should not get a scholarship. When Wendell Jones has been in ABC school for the last 6 years, has got a 3.7 average, been the head boy, been the captain of the basketball team, my God, you don't think that we could tell Wendell Jones whether he qualifies for a scholarship or not without knowing whether he passes BGCSEs or results? The same thing with the University of the Bahamas. People are just being notified that they are accepted in the University of the Bahamas, again, based on BGCSE results.
So your results are coming out too late.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, Mr. Lloyd.
Well, I don't know whether the results are coming out too late. I think that we should not have to depend on the results for decisions, at least final decisions, especially with the University of the Bahamas and elsewhere. My daughter applied to University of Tampa, the St. Mary's University in Tampa, all right? From March, she knew whether she was accepted or not. And she was accepted in both places. For March, they were not waiting for no BGCSE results. They looked at her record. They looked at her SAT scores. You accept, you're not accepted. We got to come to the 21st century, Mr. Jones. This has been going on for 14 years in scholarships. It's unfair, and it will be changed.
Tell me, in view of the presence of the University of the Bahamas and the limitations on scholarship money, is there a limitation on where you can obtain a scholarship in order to study?
No program offered by the University of the Bahamas or any other tertiary institution in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, no program that is offered here will receive scholarship or tuition support outside of this country. If you want your child to study biology, the University of the Bahamas has a biology program. But if you don't want to go to the University of the Bahamas, you want to go to the University of Tennessee, you're welcome to do so. We are not going to give you any money to support that because the program is here at the University of the Bahamas. Now, if the University of the Bahamas cannot accommodate you, and you can prove that to us, and we don't want you to prove it, the university's got to have to prove that to us, then you will be considered. But accounting and biology and a number of other disciplines,
Right here.
it's available right here. If you don't want to do it, or the University of the West Indies, we are paying 80% of the tuition for those going to Jamaica, 60% Barbados and Trinidad. If you're not able to go to one of those schools for a discipline that is being offered, and you don't want to, you want to go to the University of Jabim, Manitoba, certainly you're welcome. The government is not going to support you.
You mentioned BGCSE results. How are they, by the way?
We're pouring through them right now. We got them last week. We're going through them with a fine-tooth comb to determine what I could see. Certainly the BJC results seem to be improved this year. I'm very impressed with some schools that did very, very well. The BGCSE results, if any improvement, is very, very, very slight, very slight. But we're going to have a press conference early next week to announce those results and then let the Bahamian people know where we are with that. Schools are just receiving those results now because, you know, the results come to the ministry first. They're distributed to all the schools throughout the Bahamas, and the teachers and the administrators are going subject by subject to see how their respective students are doing. I could tell you when I was in North Andros, they had received their results, and the school in North Andros High,
Yeah.
Mr. Padu and all them,
Yeah.
man, they're jumping. Yeah. Some of them have gotten 100% passes in some of their subjects. They're doing very, very well. A number of schools. The school 8 Mile Rock, done very well this year in BGCSE results, very well. Their graduation has also improved slightly over last year. So we've got pockets of excellence throughout the system, Mr. Jones. We just need to bring the rising tide to catch all of the boats.
You know, we spent a whole lot of time on one of our programs speaking about the national grade average. And a whole lot of people in their social commentary talk about the national grade average. You hear these averages mentioned in barbershops and churches. Mr. McPhee, you gave us a soliloquy the other day about the national grade average. As far as you're concerned, we shouldn't pay any attention to them, right?
There's no such thing.
There's no such
thing. When you look at it, we should be speaking of a subject average. But when you look at it, you're comparing apples with oranges. How can you compare a score in language with a score in math? Two different set of skills. You see, and we have done that over the years, and we've done ourselves a great disservice. Now, what you should be looking at is per subject. What is the average for the nation in, say, math, say, language?
So, are you talking about abolishing this whole thing about the national grade average?
But
There's no such
thing. There's no such thing.
It's not
Yeah, but
abolishing.
we've
It
been putting a lot of emphasis on it.
The media has been putting
Mr.
emphasis,
Lloyd,
and the
over
public
the
has been
years.
emphasis on
The
it.
Ministry of Education has been announcing it.
No. Well, the ministry, if they have done it, they have also been contributing to this,
no
in
such
my
thing.
mind, this potential confusion. Because, in a sense, people are going back into the, Godfrey took the Cambridge, I took the GCE.
Yeah.
People are not taking the BGCSE. We are looking back in the days of the GCE when the average was C. Well, the average had to be C because it was A to F.
Right.
So the average is C, but the grade now is way past it.
Right.
Okay? So the average would fall, if you're really looking at an average, at D. Because it's the bell curve. The
Right.
majority of your students are going to come
in the
somewhere
D.
in
Middle,
the
in
average.
the middle, yeah.
D is a passing grade
Yes.
in the BGCSE. It's a passing grade. It's a passing grade. In the GCE, a C was a passing grade because you were going to A to F. So, but this nonsense, Mr. Anderson speaks to it, let Mr. McPhee speak to it. It's nonsensical to be talking about a national average.
Average, no,
Because
there's
it's
no
not
such thing.
possible for you to come to a national average. What you should be focusing on, I've kept saying this, what rate are you graduating your students? That's the concern that you must have. Are your students meeting the minimum standards for graduation? Well, I've talked about that earlier, Mr. McPhee.
And again, Mr. DeJones, just also there was, I think we might have missed a very important thing that the minister said. And I'm glad he said it because it supports some of the comments I would have made and we would have been speaking about previously. And that is the business about scholarship. For the government of the Bahamas to say, I don't have at this time enough funding to provide every applicant who have met the requirement for a scholarship speaks to the level of success, improvements that we're experiencing in education. If we're able to say to date, based on projections of past and even present, and based on what we actually could provide economically and financially for persons to seek higher level of learning and training, that at this point, 1 in 8, see, we could look at the next side of it. That means
7.
we have a massive amount of children in 2018 who are functioning, as I said, this misnomer, this miscalculation of performance today versus
Yesterday.
20 years ago. 20 years ago, every child, as a matter of fact, people applied and you got money left over. It means that we are making progress. But back to this national average of the day, and I said to you, I sit on a regional board of some 23 countries in the region for education, the Caribbean Union of Teachers. And sometimes people laugh at us with this national average because the national exam was never designed for such purpose. The original mindset of it was supposed to show every child registered in the system who's the responsibility of the minister, the prime minister, and those who are responsible for educating our populace where they are. So if a child enters at a level of U, for example, and leaves at a level of D,
Improvement.
they improved.
Improvement, yeah.
And we're saying, as Mr. Anderson said, and even to bring it clearer, I wouldn't even go to the point of a national subject average. Not if we're going to take in consideration that the child who didn't even sit the exam accounts to what the overall grade looks.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If I have 100 children again and only 80 take the exam, I've already dropped what the true score is by adding people who never even took it, sir. And with that premise, I say, well then, if I work 8 hours, go see who accepts 6 hours pay and talk but fail. No. So if we're looking at this national average, saying in the minds of even the public, outside of the general cultural perception, which will take us the next 2 million years to educate people to accept that this thing is utmost foolishness.
It is foolish because educators introduced it. Those people in the Ministry of Education introduced it. The media didn't get it out of the thin air. Educators, administrators over the years
Talked about it.
introduced it, and
But
announced it every
but
year.
that still does not negate the fact who introduced it,
you
that is
said-
still foolishness.
But if it is foolishness,
Then it started with y'all.
if it is foolishness,
But it's-
and
but
it
you're
started
right,
in the
we can't
Ministry of
run from that.
Education,
We
then
cannot-
get rid of it.
And we have. You have not heard us in the last 2-3 years speak about a national average. We've been speaking about the results, whether we improve or did not.
Okay.
Gentlemen, let me throw a question. Let me throw a question out here.
Read that.
When I attended school, right, smart people would skip Do you have a program to advance, Mr. Lloyd, in the U.S. what they call talented and gifted students, students who are
High
exceptionally
achievers.
bright, high achievers, right? Is there a program in our system to deal with that kind of individual?
Well, what we do in the sense, and I think now we're at the point where we're trying to make it nationally a
Yes,
policy. But again, I can speak even from the standpoint of the educational managers, the principals who are managing these schools. You can go into C.C. Sweeting right now. Miss Joan Gray has a program that feeds that exceptional learner. You can go into schools. The only thing I will say at this point is you may not open a policy document
Right.
and see
Right.
that program laid
But it is
out.
happening.
But in every single school we're addressing as the high flyer.
It always happen.
as the-
That's the case, it always happen.
No, but as he indicated, there's no policy. But
No.
even in my time, a child received 5 BGCSEs in grade 11. They washed it into COB because there was no reason for them to spend grade 12 when they could go to COB and start their first year of college.
Very interesting discussion, gentlemen. We are just about out of time, and Minister, we give you the last word here today.
Well, I appreciate your time, sir. Thanks a lot to Mr. McPhee and you and Mr. Enius and our team members, Mr. Anderson, Mr. Turnquest, Mr. Jones. We are on the way. Education's on the way, and we have got examples of that. Former principals sitting around this table along with the present principal. We are on the way with education, and we are utilizing the resources we have. We are maximizing them. We are prioritizing them to achieve the objectives at this time. System has got a long way to go. We don't have single-sex schools. We don't have technology and vocational schools. We don't have magnet schools. Just to show you, we don't have a public boarding school, Mr. Jones. And all of these opportunities and options should be available to our Bahamian society. There's a boarding school back in the 60s in this country.
Yeah.
And today, we don't have a single one that is operating.
Exactly.
And back in the day, you had a technical school, vocational school, and we don't have one today that is dedicated to that. But we're on the way, sir, and I'm happy with the progress that is being made. I'm proud of the dedication of our professionals, our teaching professionals, our administrators. Example of Mr. McPhee here, people who are putting their shoulders to the wheel, against sometimes some sacrificial conditions that, will make you and I cringe, sir. But here they are, nevertheless. Mr. McPhee come right off the campus now, painting. As the principal, painting and pulling weeds out of the ground and ensuring that next week those teachers can come to a school that is ready to be occupied, and hopefully in 2 weeks the students will be ready to be received. So I appreciate them, God bless them, and we are working for them and for the children of our country.
Minister, thank you very much. Thank you for being here today.
My pleasure.
And I thank Mr. McPhee, and I thank Mr. Anderson, and your Deputy Permanent Secretary, Donovan Turnquest. I want you to give me 2 stanzas of your poem on the talk show.
No, I want to read the whole thing.
Oh,
Mr. Jones, I don't know how much you appreciate it as a talk show host, or you or Mr. Lloyd was, but one day I was thinking about it, and I said, these people make a great contribution to our society. And so I wrote a poem about it. It's called The Talk Show Host. Every day you're on the air discussing topics that matter most. At times you can be controversial. You are the daily talk show host. You say the things we all want to say. You're not afraid of victimization. You're convinced you have a responsibility to assist in building our nation. To the politicians, you are the enemy. At times you cut them to the core. Your listeners are your biggest fans who daily come back for more. At times, you can be provocative. You give us all pause to think. There are those who may be offended, but from your duties, you do not shrink. Your guests are always enlightening, with a wealth of knowledge to share. You do it in an attempt to educate us and show us how much you care. Our society is that much richer because of the job you daily do. You just continue to fight for us, and we'll be here to support you.
thank you so very much.
Oh,
Thank you so
man.
very much. Wonderful.
That's
Thank
powerful.
you. Thank you so very much.
Very
And,
good.
Make me want to come back to the talk show.
whenever you give up education, there's a space here in Joe's Communications for you. Thank you so very much. That is wonderful.
welcome.
And we need to circulate this throughout this
please
company.
do.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you for having me.
Mr. Turnquest, and of course we thank Mr. McPhee and Minister Jeff Lloyd for being here today. Thank you, Godfrey Enius.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching and listening to our program. Good evening, everyone.